So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Kanuki back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Friday, April 30th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far and having had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is in fact Friday, April 30th here today. We are a day after the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. Yes, the NFL Draft was yesterday, and it was awesome. It was a lot of fun. A couple really, interesting picks. A couple really big moves. A couple really surprising picks, I would say. I would say some of you might not think so. But yeah, a lot of great action yesterday in the NFL Draft. I said it yesterday that I do expect this draft to have a lot of action in it. It got actually more than what I expected. I saw a couple trades here and there, but we saw a lot of interesting picks. We saw a lot of just movement, a lot of guys going off the board that maybe some didn't expect to go off the board that early. It was a fun draft. It really was. It was a really, really fun draft for the first round. We still got the second round today, and then the rest of the draft, into tomorrow and then the weekend. And obviously, like I said, the first round's usually the big round. That's when everyone watches. The first round's big, but I still really like to watch the second round. Third round, I'll watch. When it gets to the fourth, fifth, and sixth round, not that I don't have any belief in those players, but let's be real here. All those guys, will they ever turn out to be anything great? Probably not. So, unless if you're drafting like a receiver or something, that could very well see extended playing time. And you're a team like a team that has a lot of draft picks, sure. But if you're a team that, is really good, doesn't really need any players, you probably ain't going to see the field much. But we did see the first round yesterday. There was a lot of good picks, a lot of surprising moves, a lot of moves that I wouldn't have made if I was these teams. I'll go through all 32 picks here, but the New York Jets, they got their guy. They got Zach Wilson. I was so excited when we drafted him, and I know everyone always says this, and everyone always, sometimes asks me this too, when when your team's going to pick, because, let's be real here. Last year, most of us knew the Jets were going to take Becton. I was still super excited when he took him. This year, I feel like I'm even more excited with Zach Wilson because I do believe he's the quarterback that will lead us to success. I do believe that, and I'll talk periodically throughout the show here today why I think that. I know a lot of people are split on Zach Wilson. I believe he is the answer to the New York Jets. I believe the Jets didn't just get their quarterback. Joe Douglas, our GM, he got his quarterback, right? And that's been one thing. When the Jets brought on Joe Douglas as the GM, Darnold wasn't his quarterback, right? He didn't draft Darnold. And that's one of the big things I feel like. Now that he drafted his quarterback, he's going to build around him. He's fixing up this roster. This is Joe Douglas's quarterback. And I feel like Zach Wilson with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, there are not many better situations like that for the New York Jets. We haven't seen a stable front office right now, what it looks like. We haven't seen good leaders in the top of the front office with the New York Jets in a long time. And we finally seem like we've got that with Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh. And yesterday, with the pick of Zach Wilson, I love the pick. I really do. I've been saying Zach Wilson ever since we lost out on Trevor Lawrence. I've been saying it for months now. We got him. I love the pick. I believe he's the answer. Then we traded up to number 14, and I was sitting there going through some of the stuff. I was watching the draft, but I was sitting there too, just going through, just some of the other picks and just looking at the players. And all of a sudden, I look up and I see the Jets are on the clock, and I'm like, what? We had the 23rd overall pick. So I'm like, hold on a second. Hold on. And then they trade up, and I'm like, they've got to be taking Elijah Vera Tucker. And I'm like, they better. If they don't take Elijah Vera Tucker, this is the most useless trade up ever. We ended up taking Elijah Vera Tucker, and oh my gosh, that pick just helps out Zach Wilson so much. Mekhi Becton, Tucker, both on the left side. Zach Wilson's blind side. Maybe very well we could draft another offensive lineman in the draft. All of a sudden, this offensive line is looking like a true, really solid offensive line to protect Zach Wilson. So that's what I wanted to get. That's what I wanted. That's who I wanted. And I said yesterday about Tucker. I said he's a very good offensive lineman, but I said this is a guy who could be waiting a long time to get his name called. He might be one of the first guys off the board from the offensive line. He might be one of the last. And the New York Jets, arguably, I think he was the second, third best offensive line available. The Jets went up, 14th overall pick. They snagged him. I can almost guarantee you he was not available at number 23. The Jets came up and took him. And I've actually text message proof because I was texting someone. I always text during the draft and stuff. I texted the person. I texted him, and I was like, "This has got to be Elijah Vera Tucker." I said, "If this isn't him, I have it. I have proof." So before the pick even made, I was like, "This has got to be AVT, Elijah Vera Tucker." That's his new nickname, AVT. And I was like, "This has got to be him. This has got to be it." There's no way we trade up 9 picks to not draft an offensive lineman. We ended up taking him. And I was like, wow. I mean, Joe Douglas just has another amazing draft and just an excellent day for him. So the Giants made a move as well. They traded back and got, obviously traded back with the Bears. The Bears took Justin Fields with their pick, and the Giants traded back to number 20, and they took Kadarius Toney out of Florida. Definitely a surprising pick. I don't know if I don't want to say it's a bad pick or anything, but it's definitely surprising. I mean, I did not have Kadarius Toney actually in my draft going in the first round. He was one of those guys that some saw going in the first round, some didn't. Was almost one of those guys like he always had the phone. He always needed to have the phone ready because any moment he could have got the call to go get drafted because this was a guy that was kind of debatable, still up in the air. Some people believed he might go first round and stuff like that. I thought the Giants were so locked in on Kwity Paye. I was sitting there like, yeah, the Giants are going to take Paye. Sure enough, they passed up on him, and the Colts took Paye. So the Colts took an edge rusher, which ended up switching up the scenario that I had. I had Kwity Paye going off the board. Then I had the Colts taking an under edge rusher. I had them taking, the Azaze Luari guy out of Georgia. So I had them taking another edge rusher. But since Paye was there, Paye dropped to 21. You're talking about a guy that some people had the Giants taking an 11. He dropped far. So Colts definitely getting a good player there as well. So Yankees also Yankees took a loss yesterday. Nets got a win. Rangers took a loss. I'm skipping ahead. I'm saying my words too quickly here. But yes, the Rangers got the Nets got a win yesterday. Yankees took a tough loss. Rangers took a terrible loss. Really deflates our playoff hopes. We're now 6 points behind the Bruins with 5 games remaining. So mathematically, we got to literally win out here. We got to win our next 5 games to have any chance. And we got to hope that the Bruins lose. Winning our next 5 games and having the Bruins win all their remaining games, that doesn't help us. So we got to hope that we win out in order to make the playoffs. It's not going to be easy. It's mathematically still possible, but realistically, I don't think we're going to get there. But we'll see how it all plays out. So these are the topics for today. We got the NFL Draft recap, first round. Like I mentioned today, I'm going to go through all the picks of the first round. Recap, I'm giving you my thoughts on every one of the pick. I really do believe that it was a good draft. I believe that there was a lot of stuff and there was a lot of surprising stuff, I got to admit. I did not expect the Jaguars taking ETN there. I understand he's Trevor's teammate, but you got to realize the Jaguars have James Robinson in a breakout year last season, so they weren't really any in need of a running back. So that should be interesting to see how they play that out. Then I'll give you a little bit of a preview to today's second round and third round. I've got the picks in order. That's today. Obviously, the Jets have the 34th pick in the draft, so we're going to be drafting early in the second round as well. So we got to be ready today. Then we'll get into the Giants and Jets and Giants draft picks. I'm really going to go deep into them. It was kind of like yesterday. It's going to kind of be like it's going to be like the intertwined segment. I'm going to talk about the NFL draft, and I'll give you the Jets stuff and the Giants stuff, but I'm also going to talk about the Jets during the NFL draft. So it's kind of one of those segments that's kind of going to be in with what I'm talking about, but a little different. I'll do a little bit of in-depth stuff on that. So we'll get into that. Then we'll finish off the podcast with the New York sports update. Yankees have a game today. They play against the Tigers, open up a series today. Cole's on the mound. I feel confident about this game actually with Cole on the mound against a not a great Tigers team. Feel confident about that. Then you got Nets playing a second half of back-to-back today against the Trailblazers. Rangers have a day off, and the Yankees also play. So we'll see how it all plays out. Nets are 43-20, 23 games above 500. The Nets are cruising right now. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get into it. So yeah. So last night was the NFL draft, obviously, like I mentioned, and we went through all 32 picks. There was a lot of trades. Right off the bat, I noticed a lot of trades. But I want to say this first. There was a lot of surprising picks. I did not see the Tennessee Titans taking Caleb Farley. I did not expect the Jaguars to take Travis Etienne. When I was talking about their offense yesterday, I actually mentioned James Robinson in the backfield. I was like, that's a strength of their team, and they still go out and get a running back. Now, let me mind you, Travis Etienne, he can receive. He's a very good receiving back. He's actually very underrated for that. He had a great year receiving last year. So, ultimately, you can honestly put Travis Etienne in as a receiver. I could very well see the Jaguars possibly doing that. But I did think it was interesting because I was like, James Robinson's a strength of their team, and they still go out and draft a running back. And there's always, obviously, I'm not going to criticize the Jaguars for what they did in the draft. They got a generational talent in Trevor Lawrence, and now they have Travis Etienne, who I think is the best running back in the draft. I do think Najee Harris is very good, but I might even say, due to Travis Etienne's catching ability, I might say he's even the best. But they had James Robinson, which was interesting. So a lot of interesting moves. The Caleb Farley, all that stuff is blown out. Caleb Farley obviously is now a member of the Titans. So all this stuff saying, he's going to fall to the second round, all this stuff saying he's going to get picked early in the first. His spot was the number 22 overall pick, and the Tennessee Titans, they took him. So that's how that was. No surprise with the Steelers taking Najee Harris. I think they knew who they were going to be taking for a couple weeks now. Ravens took Rashad Bateman, wide receiver. Not surprised it took a wide receiver. I am surprised it was Rashad Bateman, though. I had them taking Terrace Marshall, and I had Packers taking Bateman. Rodgers requested a trade yesterday as well. Greg Newsome falling all the way to Cleveland. That was definitely interesting. I thought for sure, he would get picked higher, Greg Newsome. I had a feeling if the Jets were going to stay in that 23 overall pick, I think we probably would have took Newsome, looking back on it. Other than that, Gregory Rousseau was from the Bills, and a couple of those other good picks. So a lot of good picks. But let's go through it one by one and talk about the picks. So number one overall is Trevor Lawrence. The Jaguars drafted Trevor Lawrence. There's no surprise here. And like I said, he's a generational talent, a culture-changing quarterback. There's so many good words. You don't have to say as much with Trevor Lawrence, really break down his name, break down his game. You really don't have to. You could just say, generational talent, and someone will know how good he is. You don't have to break down his arm strength, break down his, how he can be mobile, break down his throw on the right. You don't have to do that. You could just say he's a generational talent and leave it at that. And that's what I'm going to do with Trevor Lawrence. And I like Trevor Lawrence a lot. I hope he has a good career in the NFL. I really liked him in college. Watching him all so much and thinking the Jets had a shot at him. Definitely I like Trevor Lawrence. I do. And I hope he does well. But really, all I got to say about him is, A, not surprised at the pick, not surprised at all, and B, generational talent, and the Jaguars get their franchise quarterback. So that's what we got here with the Jaguars going number one to Trevor Lawrence. Number two overall, it's Zach Wilson, quarterback out of BYU. The Jets take him. I mentioned it earlier. Yes, last night I was so excited when this pick came in. And I know some Jets fans wanted Justin Fields. I wanted to avoid Justin Fields the best I can. I don't think Justin Fields is going to be that good in the NFL. I really don't. And he did not fit the Jets scheme. So all these people saying that Justin Fields should have went to the Jets is outrageous. He doesn't even fit the Jets scheme. Zach Wilson is the perfect scheme fit for the New York Jets. Arguably the best scheme fit in the NFL draft. This is a guy who played under what the Jets scheme has is literally what he did at BYU. So you're bringing in a guy that is so comfortable with what the plays that the Jets are running. So you can't even sit here and say, it was a bad pick and stuff. No, it's a scheme fit. He is very talented. My opinion, the most mobile quarterback in the draft. And we got ourselves our franchise quarterback. And I do believe that. And I know a lot of people might think, you said it last time about Darnold. I did, but this is Douglas's quarterback. Douglas is building around him the right way. Darnold, sadly, he just got beat up here. We didn't hire the right coaches for him. We didn't have the right GM. It's the truth. Or not the right GM. To be honest, McCagnon drafted him, obviously, played his first year. Then the next season, they hired Douglas. But Douglas didn't even have that draft because he went through the draft, signed all the free agents, and they fired him. So last season was Douglas's first draft with the New York Jets. This year was his second. And I would say he's done so well in both of them. We obviously still got to see how the rest of this draft plays out, but he has nailed the first-round picks. 2 offensive linemen and a quarterback. in the first 2 years of your GM, you're going to be liked around here. But that's one of my things I wanted to say. This is Joe Douglas's quarterback. He's going to build around him the right way. Mike Maccagnan didn't do anything to help Darnold. Douglas has already done more to help Wilson than Maccagnan did to help Darnold. It's the truth. He's already went out and gotten a receiver or two. He's already went out and built up this offensive line. Obviously, hired the right coach. Douglas has already done more for Zach Wilson than Maccagnan did for Sam Darnold. And Zach Wilson hasn't even played one game with the New York Jets. As much as everyone wants to make fun of the Jets, Zach Wilson actually is coming into a situation where you got to hope it works out, but we're definitely headed into the right direction. I believe that. So a good pick by the New York Jets. Super excited about it. I do believe Zach Wilson's the answer. This guy's got so much talent. Let's see it in action. Number 3 overall pick, San Francisco 49ers, Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State. This one caught me by surprise. And I can tell you this, right when this pick went down, I pretty much said Mac Jones was going to the Patriots. I think most of us expected Mac Jones going to the Patriots after this pick was done. I think I did say Justin Fields could have went to the Patriots. I did say that. So I'm lying, actually. The Bears, when they traded up, you knew Mac Jones was going to the Patriots. There's no doubt about it. That was an obvious pick. Trey Lance, though, is an interesting pick. And obviously, Lynch, their GM, was the upper hand. Kyle Shanahan wanted Mac Jones. Lynch wanted Trey Lance. So obviously Lynch, the GM, had more power. He obviously got the final decision in it, and it was Trey Lance. And let me tell you, I'm not doubting Trey Lance's talent at all, but I will tell you this is a guy that's coming in with a big underdog. He's a big underdog, and I will admit, he's got a lot of pressure on him. He does, because you're talking about a 49ers team that just went to a Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they still got a lot of guys from that Super Bowl team on this roster. So you got to hope that he can bring them somewhere close to that. To that winning level again, obviously after this year's terrible year where they missed the playoffs, but you got to hope that he brings them back to a winning year, and this is a big year for him. But I got to admit, this is a guy that's coming in with pressure on him, but to be honest, he's got to prove a lot of people wrong, but it's not like he's so hyped. A lot of people don't think this pick is good, number one. And number two, a lot of people just don't think Trey Lance is that good. So I think Trey Lance is a very good quarterback. He threw one interception in his 17 starts in his college career. He threw one interception. Okay? Consistency is a big part of how I judge players. And he was consistent at North Dakota State. So I think it's a good pick for the Niners. I was surprised. I expected Mac Jones. But I do think it was a good pick. Number 4 is the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. No surprise here. The most athletic player in the NFL draft. Arguably one of the most athletic players we've seen in recent history come into the NFL draft. And let me tell you this. Whoever the quarterback of the Falcons is for the next couple years, if Julio Jones stays, you got yourself a receiving core. Julio Jones, Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley. Doesn't get much better than that. Now all they got to do is fix up their defense, and we'll see if they do that today. They've obviously got some guys today that they're going with. They've obviously got the 3rd overall pick today in the 2nd round. So you talk about a team that's got some picks. They've got some options. They've got an opportunity here to really make a difference today, and we'll see what they do. I definitely think the Falcons got to focus on defense the rest of the way. But it was a good pick for them. Number 5, Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU. Now, this pick, I'm not saying Jamar Chase isn't going to be good. I think Jamar Chase is going to be a good receiver. To be honest, I think Jamar Chase could very well be like a Justin Jefferson. A guy that, was good in college, but, it was almost like everyone else was talking about a different player. He comes on and he's just going to burst onto the scene. And the other teams are going to regret passing him up. Right? I think that could very well be the case. Now, let me tell you, 3 of the 5 teams that passed them up were teams that were in quarterback need. So, and the other team was sold on Kyle Pitts all along. So, I would say here, give it a little bit of a lenient, because if you're the Jaguars, you're not going to go take Jamar Chase over Trevor Lawrence. But with Jamar Chase, wide receiver out of LSU, obviously, with him, here's the one issue. Joe Burrow, and I genuinely mean this, I'm concerned for Joe Burrow. I am. And I get it. He's got Jamar Chase now, and they're former LSU teammates and all that stuff. I'm genuinely concerned for Joe Burrow's health. They don't have an offensive line. They don't. The Bengals do not have an offensive line. And we saw what happened last season with Joe Burrow. He had an injury. He was done for the year. And that's so early on in his career. He didn't even play one full season. He's already got an injury. Now he's coming into his second year. Still not much. Still no offensive line. You can have all the good receivers you want. If you don't have any time to throw to them, they're going to be useless. The Bengals, this is what I want to see. I'm not doubting Jamar Chase's talent. I think he's going to be really good. But I do think the Bengals made a mistake passing up on Penei Sewell. I really do. I'm not saying Jamar Chase is going to be good. I think Jamar Chase is going to have a good career. But they made a mistake passing up on Penei Sewell. That's how I see it. I think they should have took Penei Sewell. Burrow is going to be running for his life every play. And he's not going to be able to get the ball to Jamar Chase as much as if they had a good offensive line. We'll see how it plays out. I disagree with the pick. I think they should have took Penei Sewell. That's how I see it. Number 6 overall, Jalen Waddle, Miami Dolphins wide receiver, Alabama. I was a little surprised to see this, to be honest. I actually saw whatever I said yesterday, whatever the Bengals don't do, I think the Dolphins would do. So I actually, sitting there, I was expecting Sewell, the Dolphins to take just add on to their already good offensive line to help out Tua. But, hey, the Dolphins obviously have, been very have been rough on Tua. This is a guy that sat a little bit last season, was a guy that, not many people, he had a little bit of a 50-50. He wasn't as good as many people expected, but, some people want to see, some people still believe in him. Some people have already lost trust in him. So, I feel like with Tua here, he's got assets around him. He's got Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, add Jalen Waddle now. And I talked yesterday how their receiving core was average. Well, now they add Jalen Waddle. And now they got a much better receiving core. They got a true deep ball threat here now, let alone Tua's got to get the ball downfield. He struggled with deep ball last season. He doesn't have as strong in his arm, and his accuracy isn't great, which might just sound like I'm bashing him. I'm not. But he had a lot to work on this offseason. And you got to, as a Dolphins fan, you got to hope that he gets better, because last season was definitely not that good. But you now add Jalen Waddle. You already got Devontae Parker. You already got Mike Gesicki and guys like that, and Myles Gaskin, who can receive out of the backfield and run well. All of a sudden, he's surrounded by a good amount of talent. It's a big year for Tua and a big year for this Dolphins team. So, I think it's a good pick. Just the one issue is Tua's got to get the ball to him. His accuracy and deep ball downfield is a little bit of an issue. He's got to work on that. Number 7 overall, the Detroit Lions took Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, Oregon. This is one of these things where I'm not going to sit here and say I disagree with the pick, because it's Sewell and he's a good offensive lineman, and I already feel like Sewell already dropped a little bit in the draft. But I'm also not going to sit here and say, I could sit here and say it was a good pick, but I could also sit here and say it's not a good pick, that they should have took a receiver. Who does Jared Goff have to throw to? No one. Jared Goff doesn't have many guys around him. He really doesn't. He doesn't. He has T.J. Hawkinson and who? T.J. Hawkinson and a bunch of question marks. Okay? This is a guy he's coming from the Los Angeles Rams, where they had Gerald Everett, Tyler Higbee, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, right? They had all those guys around him. And now all of a sudden, he's going to a Lions team where you're looking around and you're like, what? Where's their receiving core? It's gone. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones Jr., the two main guys of that receiving core. Especially Golladay, obviously signed with the Giants. It's gone. It's going to be an interesting year for Jared Goff, because I do believe Jared Goff still got it in him. He's got protection, however, he doesn't got many assets around him. But they're getting sold. They're bringing a big body up front. I always say this. You can never go wrong drafting a offensive lineman, I feel like. I say this. You really can't. You really can't go wrong drafting an offensive lineman. Receiver, you could, because if a receiver's not getting used and not out there all the time, he's going to get rusty. He's not going to be as successful. If you're a team that has a loaded receiving core and you just draft a receiver or, for no reason, that's not a good idea. But offensive lineman, I feel like you can never go wrong. Offensive lineman, not that it's like an injury-prone position, but it's a lot of hitting. It's a lot of that stuff. There very well could be injuries. Never bad to have depth at a position. And B, it's the most important position on the field. If an NFL team didn't have an offensive line, there would be no quarterbacks out there, running backs out there that would be good. Offensive line is the most important position on the football field. All right, so they took Penei Sewell. Number 8, the Carolina Panthers took J.C. Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina. I was surprised by this pick. And the reason I was here is because I thought for sure they would go receiver or offensive line to try and build around Darnold. Now, let me tell you, Darnold, it's not like he's got no one around him there in Carolina. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, Darnold's got no one around him. Darnold's got guys around him. He's got DJ Moore. He's got Robbie Anderson. He's already played out, obviously, with the Jets. Then you got Christian McCaffrey in the backfield, CMC. He's got no problem with guys around him. But the Panthers maybe grabbing one more receiver could have been better. But the Panthers are still in that awkward phase with their defense. Like, they've got young talent, but at the same time, they still want to add on. And I feel like they continue to do that here with J.C. Horn. Number 9, the Denver Broncos selected Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback out of Alabama. I mean, to be honest, not like I said, I have no problem. I think Surtain's going to have a good career. I do. I think he's going to be a good player. But the one issue here is I do think they should have took Micah Parsons out of Penn State. Because you got to realize, the face of the franchise, Von Miller, who's been the leader of that defense for so long now, his career is coming to an end. You're going to need another guy to try to fill in his shoes. And you're getting a very good corner in Patrick Surtain, but you're getting a very good linebacker in Micah Parsons. So this pick could have went either way. I agree with them taking defense. The player that they took, that's another discussion. Number 9, Denver Broncos. Now, Patrick Surtain, I said this yesterday. The guy is very good in one-on-one coverage. A lot of NFL coaches, a lot of defensive coordinators, a lot of organizations judge players off of their one-on-one skill. He can win a lot of one-on-ones. He's very good with it. You leave him out on an island all by himself with another receiver, he can handle that. And that's big. A lot of times you notice if a cornerback's going to be good or not is late in games or even just in big spots in the game, if they can step up and win a one-on-one coverage. That's a lot of times what you got to see. And some of these teams, it's very rare out there to see a guy that can do that. He did it all the time at Alabama. You had a receiver out wide and then a loaded set or whatever, and you got a receiver out wide. It was one-on-one, him and the other receiver. He can win one-on-one coverage, so you're getting that out of him. All right, so this is where our first trade came in. Number 10 overall, Devontae Smith, wide receiver out of Alabama. The Philadelphia Eagles traded this pick. So the Cowboys traded back to number 12, which is where the Eagles came up to number 10, got Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith's the best receiver in the draft. I think he's arguably one of the better players in the draft. Now, the Philadelphia Eagles completely hurt the New York Giants by this. Because, number 1, they jumped in front of the Giants, who I think the Giants were set on taking Devontae Smith. I really do. They jumped in front of the Giants and took Devontae Smith. And then they took Micah Parsons behind him. And the Giants, since they were like, you know what, let's trade out of it. Then the Cowboys took Micah Parsons. So the two guys that the Giants were looking at, they're now going to have to go up against them in the NFC East. So Devontae Smith and Micah Parsons are two players the Giants very well could have had, or at least one of them, and now they're going to have to go up against both of those guys twice a year. So I found that funny, but it's a good pick for the Eagles. And if the Eagles are going to want to build around Hurts, I think today they've got to hit up on the offensive line. I think they've got to make the offensive line a priority today. The offensive line still isn't very good. The receiving core, you got to hope that Jalen Reagor does better. You got to hope that Dallas Goedert starts to get consistent. And then, Devontae Smith. Right now, I think automatically Devontae Smith is the best receiver on the team automatically. Jalen Reagor did not have a good year last year. I think automatically Devontae Smith already comes in. It's a huge upgrade. So, the Eagles made a big upgrade, but they still got a lot of stuff to do with that team. So, we'll see how it plays out. So, that was the first trade. Then the Giants traded. So the Giants went from number 11, traded back to number 20, and that's when the Bears came up here and took Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State. I'm not not that I don't like Fields. I just don't think he's going to be the history of Ohio State quarterbacks. It hasn't worked out, and I know a lot of people could say, "Oh, well, you shouldn't look at the history and stuff." Well, there's obviously something Ohio State's doing with their quarterbacks just isn't working out, and it could just be the quarterbacks before. But most recently, Dwayne Haskins. A guy did not work out with the Washington, he did not work out in Washington, right? He is now a backup in where? Pittsburgh, I think. So, the history of Ohio State quarterbacks have just not worked. And I'm not saying not saying Dwayne Haskins is, or not Dwayne Haskins. I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to be that, but the history of Ohio State quarterbacks tells us he isn't going to be the answer. Now, this is, I feel like, a good pick for the Bears because they had Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback before this. Now, GM Ryan Pace, who's very hated over there in Chicago, made the pick. People are like, all right, he makes a smart decision. And then later on that day, says that Andy Dalton's still our starting quarterback. So what's going on in Chicago? I have no clue. Who's going to be under center week 1? I have no clue. All I know is they got Justin Fields. They've got a solid receiving core. They've got David Montgomery in the backfield. They got a very good defense, right? It just comes down to coaching and front office will depend on how this Bears team does this season. Number 12 with the Cowboys. This was a part of the Eagles-Cowboys trade. The Cowboys drafted Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State. I think it's a good move. I said the Cowboys all along should have went defense, defense, defense. I was talking to someone today about it. The Cowboys would win the NFC East every year if they had a defense. They've got an amazing offense. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. You know, they got a solid offensive line. Not great, not what it was, but it's still decent. You know, but your defense is terrible. You're the worst defense in the NFL. You don't really got a good secondary. Your linebackers are iffy. You just lost Sean Lee, a veteran. He obviously retired. So you bring in Micah Parsons. You try to, see if Micah Parsons can fit there with Lane Vander Esch, and you got DeMarcus Lawrence. And, slowly now you're trying to form this team. You picked up Keanu Neal in the offseason. You got to hope that the new defensive coordinator, Dan Quinn, does to get this job done. But that gets the job done. This is a big year for the Cowboys. It's a huge year for the Cowboys organization. If they have another one of these, 8-9 or 7-10, seasons. Obviously this year 17 games, but if they have another one of these seasons where it's like they go under 500, they've got all this talent, but they're just not doing anything. I think you could see a lot of changes in the front office coming soon. But I do think they made the right pick here, taking Micah Parsons, linebacker out of Penn State University. Number 13, we got Los Angeles Chargers drafted Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle out of Northwestern. I got to tell you this. I said this yesterday. When you have a rookie quarterback rookie quarterback last season, Justin Herbert won Rookie of the Year. He showed so much promise, showed so much talent. He's coming back this year, surrounded by a lot of great players, a lot of good guys on that team. You all of a sudden you're sitting here and saying, "Wow, we got another offensive lineman." Justin Herbert's in an amazing situation there in Los Angeles. You've got guys around you like Keenan Allen. You obviously lost Hunter Henry, but you still got Keenan Allen and, Williams, and then you got Austin Eckler and obviously Herbert, and you add draft Slater to help you up front in the offensive line. The Chargers are doing everything right to build around their rookie quarterback in Justin Herbert, or their second-year quarterback in Justin Herbert. And, hey, he had a good year last year. Their offensive line wasn't terrible, but definitely always helps. This is one of these picks that you're going to look back on in a couple years and be like, this was a pivotal pick in their organization. Because this is a pick that always will help a quarterback. Protection, protection, protection. You give him time, he makes the play, you win games. That's how it works in the NFL. Number 13 overall pick, Rashawn Slater, offensive tackle, Northwestern. Now, this is another trade that happened last night. So, the New York Jets, like I mentioned, it was kind of funny. I was sitting there watching it, obviously, and all of a sudden I see Jets are on the clock, and I'm like, what? I knew we had a trade, but I'm like, I did not think we would trade. And I was trying to think who was up there, and I was obviously keeping track of who got drafted. So I looked on, and I saw it was the Minnesota Vikings. And they were doing the interview still with Rashawn Slater, I think it was, or some other guy. They were doing an interview with him. So right away, they didn't tell who we traded with. So I went on. Obviously, I do exactly order right after the pick's made. I write it down. And I went on, and I'm like, the Vikings got the pick. So I'm like, okay, so we just traded up with the Vikings. Then all of a sudden, they say it. There was a lot more in the deal than just that pick. I could actually give you that right now. If I get that up here, let's see here. All right, so this was the trade. So the Jets obviously got the first round pick, number 14 overall last night. Then the fourth round pick, 143 overall. That's for this season. That's for this year. Then the Vikings received the first round pick, 23rd overall, and 2/3, 66 and 86. So the Jets obviously give up 2/3, but I like it because the Jets got up and they drafted the guy that we wanted to draft it. Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman, USC. And I don't know if you saw the video. and it might just be me. This might just get me happy. There's some other people out there that might care less about a GM's reaction to a pick. But Joe Douglas, after this pick, the Jets GM, was so excited about this pick. He was like, yes, he was fist pumping. He was so excited about this pick because he knew, this is what I mean, not just the Jets got their quarterback, Joe Douglas got his quarterback. He knows how important this draft is for the New York Jets and the New York Jets organization. He knows how important it is to protect the quarterback. He drafted Mekhi Becton last season. He's drafting Tucker this season. He knows how important it is to protect the quarterback and protect a quarterback early in his career. And he did that last night with this Tucker pick. And I was fired up because when I saw them trade, I was like, I don't want a corner here. I don't want a receiver here. I want Tucker. I want an offensive lineman here. I wanted it. Because there's no way we trade up 9 picks to go and take a receiver that probably would have been there at number 23. And I was like, it's got to be Tucker. A, because I knew it. Douglas would be the guy that targets an offensive lineman like that, and I love that out of him. And B, Tucker was probably not going to be there at number 23. So, your process of elimination, you start connecting the dots. You're like, yeah, this has got to be him. Goodell walks up on the stage, and he announces the name, and I'm like, man, we got Wilson, Tucker, both in the draft. Love those 2 picks. And you add on Becton, Tucker, blindside for Wilson. I've always talked about guarding the blindside for a quarterback. That's pivotal. The quarterback can see here. He's not going to be able to see his behind him. He doesn't have eyes in the back of his head. As much as that would be an advantage for a quarterback, Zach Wilson does not have eyes in the back of his head. Nobody does. Okay? I say this all the time. The blind side of a quarterback is the most important area to block. And the Jets have 2. They have Becton and they have Tucker guarding the blind side for Zach Wilson. That's as good as it can get. So love this pick out of the Jets. Douglas was so fired up. We traded up for him, 9 picks up. We wouldn't have got him there, which just goes to show you how high the Jets are on him too. The Jets wouldn't have traded up 9 picks if they don't believe this guy is going to be a solid asset to this offensive line. So, good pick there by the Jets. That was another trade. Number 15 overall, the New England Patriots took Mac Jones, quarterback, Alabama. Now, to see Mac Jones fall all the way down by 15, I think would definitely got some people off guard a little bit. But when we were at the number 10 and we saw Fields go off the board at the Bears, we all knew the New England Patriots were going to take Mac Jones. That was no surprise. They did, in fact, take Mac Jones. It's a good pick for the Patriots. Now, one thing I thought was interesting, and I believe Belichick said this, that Cam's new and still they're going to be the starter. So, I mentioned this a couple days ago when I was talking about the Patriots. I might have mentioned even yesterday. I think I did, actually. Don't quote me on that, but I think I mentioned it in yesterday's podcast. This could be one of these things with the New England Patriots where they signed Cam, obviously, to a $14 million one-year deal. I missed that up. I was about to say a 14-year, $1 deal. $14 million deal, 1 year. And this could be one of these moves where now they gave him a whole lot of money. Considering last season was a 1 year, $1 million, they're giving him a ton this year, which was confusing to me. But that's besides the point. You might have Cam go out there first 3 to 4 games. Maybe you give him 5 games. Maybe you just give him 3 games, and if they're 0-3, you cut it and you say, hey, Mac Jones is in. But you go out there, you give Cam, 3-4 games. Or like I said, maybe you give him 2 games, and he's out of there. If you're 0-2, you bring in Mac Jones. If he's having a bad game, you bench Mac Jones, and it turns into like a Mayfield situation with the Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor got benched at halftime. Mayfield come in, started the rest of the year. Maybe that's it. Let's just say Cam plays 5 games into the year. They're 1-4, and they're struggling. They don't look good. Cam's not throwing the ball well. They're just not playing well. A spark could be bringing in a new guy, bringing in a guy that's hungry for playing time and wants to, earn a spot on the roster. That would be Mac Jones. That's how I see the Patriots' thought process behind this is drafting Mac Jones and then going ahead and saying, hey, if Cam doesn't work out through a couple games in a year, you're going to be out there. You're going to be out there calling the plays. That's how I see it. So, number 15 overall, Mac Jones, quarterback out of Alabama. These next 2, actually 3 picks surprised me a little bit. So, the Cardinals, Raiders, and Washington's picks surprised me. Now, the Dolphins had a pick in there where they took Jalen Phillips. Did not surprise me. I actually had the Dolphins taking an edge. I had them taking Kwity Paye, but I had them taking an edge. No surprise there. They're taking an edge from Jalen Phillips. But I thought this pick was surprising from from the Cardinals rather. Zaven Collins, linebacker out of Tulsa. Now, it creates an interesting situation there in Arizona because the Cardinals, obviously, we all know how stacked their offense is. DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk, Arnold, and you got, Kyler Murray. We all know that. We all know how good they got, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. They got a good offense, right? If you follow what I'm saying. So they got a good offense. Their defense, however, is a little bit of a question mark, like many other teams out there with their strengths being their offense. I honestly had them here taking an offensive lineman. Just because I don't. This is one of these teams that has a couple needs here and there. Like the Cardinals don't have. They're not one of those teams like one major need. They're not like one of those teams that have a glaring need. Sure, they could probably use a linebacker. They could definitely use a corner. With Patrick Peterson going, you could maybe use an insurance blanket as a receiver and another guy there. Maybe an offensive lineman. They don't really have any glaring need. They don't have a need that's like, oh my gosh, we need to fill this need now. Like the Jets had a quarterback. Like the Jets didn't have a quarterback, right? We know that's a glaring need, right? The Cardinals, I would say, like many other teams out there, they didn't have one glaring need. They had a couple needs here and there, but it wasn't like you had to address that need in order to succeed. So they addressed the linebacker need, and they drafted Isaiah Simmons last year. And here's the problem with the Cardinals, and I think they got to learn with Zaven Collins. They didn't use Isaiah Thomas last season the right way. People don't realize Isaiah Thomas can play defensive line. He can play defensive end. He can also play linebacker. He could be edge. He can play linebacker, and he can play safety. He can play 3 different positions on the field. People don't realize how much of an emotional, I just got this update here about a player being got emotional after he got picked. People don't realize how much of an advantage that is to a defense, to a team, to a player, when you have a guy that could play 3 positions on defense and be very good at all 3 of those positions. And that's what they got in Isaiah Simmons. They didn't use him the right way last season. If they use him better, plus Xavier Collins, all of a sudden now, you're using a good team. Now, Xavier Collins, what I noticed with him, he's very good at linebacker. He's very good stopping the run, though. Yesterday when they were showing his time, and I will admit, I've heard of Xavier Collins, obviously, just doing all my draft stuff. I have not seen him play much. I've only seen a couple highlights here and there. Obviously last night when he got picked. But from what it seems like and what they were talking about, he seems like a guy that does a very good job stopping the run. A team does an outside run, he does a very good job tracking it and getting the guy. So, obviously, I think a good pick there. So, so that's what I think with that pick with the Cardinals. And you get Isaiah Simmons, and he plays the right way. And then you got, obviously, Zaven Collins, and he does what he did in college. You're rolling with a good team. Number 17 overall was, I want to say this about the Oakland Raiders. And this is what I want to say. It's one of these situations where I'm surprised this player came off the board, but I'm not surprised the Raiders were the team make the pick. The Raiders have been known these past couple years, primarily since John Gruden's taken over as their head coach, to make some really interesting draft decisions. And they do it again yesterday. Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Now, he's a good player, but I want to say this. And Mel Kiper brought it up last night on draft coverage on ESPN, because I was watching on ESPN. He said this. There was a 60% chance by the Raiders' second-round pick that Alex Leatherwood still would have been available. So, it's funny. They took a guy that people are talking about being a second-round pick, and they took him number 17 overall. The Oakland Raiders, and I like it in a way. They're not one of those teams that just takes the guy that's best there. They take a guy that, they believe that's going to do the job, whether that's the biggest name ever or the smallest name ever. And I got to admit, Oakland Raider fans, after the pick, they might seem like they're like, who's this guy? You can't be surprised. You can't. As Oakland Raiders fans, you just got to look at, if you're an Oakland Raider fan out there, or not an Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders rather. If you're a Las Vegas Raiders fan, you got to look at it as this. You got to say, hey, you know what? I'm going into this draft open-minded. Whatever player we get, you got to hope he's the answer, because the Raiders do this every year. And I'm not bashing them for doing it, but it's the truth. Every year they're making a pick that so many people just are wondering why they made that pick. And I'm not saying it's a bad pick. It's just a very interesting pick and a very confusing pick that I don't think many expected. So they did it again, but they did get some offensive line help drafting him. Number 18 overall, the Miami Dolphins took Jalen Phillips, defensive end out of Miami. I talked about this yesterday. Yeah, he can get to the quarterback and all that stuff, but you talk about his explosiveness. He's one of the quickest guys off the line out of all the edge rushers in this draft. This is a guy that's very explosive. He gets off the line quickly. And I talked about this with Carl Lawson and the Jets. He reminds me a little bit of him. This is one of these things with, Jalen Phillips, where it's almost like, he can hit the quarterback. He can get to the quarterback. I get that. But at the same time, it's a lot of just getting up, getting off the line quickly, and being explosive. And that's what I see at a lot out of Jalen Phillips. And I'm a Miami fan. I saw him play a lot last year. And, that's a guy who, it's crazy. This is a guy, too. And then let me just talk about this. The journey has been remarkable. A guy who played at UCLA, suffered so many injuries, was actually, for a little bit there, medically retired from college football, football. He had so many injuries, he kind of had to put a pause on it a little bit. He came back with Miami. He's had a great season. And now he's going 18th overall to the Miami Dolphins. And I found this interesting, too. Not that this means much, and this is probably going to go one ear and out the other. I'm just like this with sports. He's going to be playing at the same stadium as Miami Hurricanes do. Hard Rock Stadium, the Dolphins' home stadium, and Miami home stadium. So you talk about not having to go far. He's going to be playing at the same stadium he played at in his Miami career. So talk about not really feeling like he's going anywhere new. It's just the same stadium. The training facility is obviously a little different. It's not going to be at the campus, but hey, it's a guy who is very familiar with the area, very familiar with the fans and stuff. He'll fit right in there in Miami. Number 19, Washington took Jamin Davis, linebacker out of Kentucky. Now, this pick I had them taking Owusu out of Notre Dame, linebacker. And like I said, surprising pick, but I get where they're coming from. The Washington could use a linebacker. You could also see Washington going for a corner, because the corner is definitely a little bit of a weaker spot. But Washington definitely's got, they've had a lot of guys bouncing in and out of their Bostic, Kerrigan, all those guys that could play the edge linebacker area. But Jamin Davis, I think this is a fine pick. Now, like I said, have I studied Jamin Davis film 24/7? No, I have not. I have seen him play a couple times. Like I said, I've seen most of these guys' highlights. And then for the second round guys, some of it I'll review, today and stuff, kind of look out for them. But mainly I do it all before the draft. I do it all. Free time before the pod, I'll just, look through some of these guys, look through their scouting report. I watch most of these guys, their pro days and stuff like that. Jamin Davis, I've seen a couple highlights. I've never really, I've watched their bowl game, but I never really watched it in a lens of, how's Jamin Davis going to do? But it makes sense. It makes sense. Now, I'm surprised they took that player, but I'm not surprised about the position. So, obviously, Washington feels it's a better scheme fit and the best move possible. So, that's what Washington did there. Now, this is the Giants pick. The New York Giants, this is the pick they traded with the Chicago Bears. So, let me just make that clear. This was the pick that they traded, so I can pull that up right now. I believe, if I'm remembering, let me get it up right now. The Giants pick, let's get it up here. So this is the Giants pick. This is the trade with the Giants. So the Giants traded their 11th pick to the Bears, obviously. Giants got the 20th overall pick, 164th overall pick in 2021, and then they got a 2022 first-round pick and a 2022 fourth-round pick. So, to be honest, for the Giants trading back 9 spots for the Bears to come up and get a quarterback, the Giants, I definitely think, won the trade. They get 2 firsts, obviously yesterday's first-round pick, which they used, and then they get a 2022 first-round pick next year, which where is that going to be? I'm not sure, but that's that. So, the Giants, they're loading up on some capital for the future as well with this. But the Giants take Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida. Now, this is a move that I'm kind of sitting here and I'm trying to look at it as every angle possible. I don't want to just judge it right off. If you just say, they selected Kadarius Toney, you're going to say, that's not a good move. I'm not trying to just look at it head on, right on, they drafted him, that's not a good move. I'm kind of looking at it from a couple different angles. I'm kind of looking at it from the angle of, oh, hey, you know what? They're getting a guy that's very versatile. He's played running back before. He can play receiver. He's punt returning. Are they getting the best receiver out there? No. Did they pass up an offensive lineman? Yes. But are they getting a guy that's got quick speed? A solid receiver and a good punt returner? Yes. Did they miss out on some stuff? Yes, they did. I definitely think they passed up on some better receivers and could have went offensive line, could have went edge. But hey, that's why really, if you're a Giants fan, you got to look at it from your way. And I feel like this is one of the more opinionated picks out there. You either hate it or you love it. There's no, I'm okay with the pick. There's none of that. It's either hate the pick or you love the pick. And that tends to happen with Dave Gettleman's pick. He makes a lot of surprising moves. A lot of Giants fans tend to either hate their picks or love the picks. Tend to mainly hate the picks. A lot of Giants fans don't like Dave Gettleman's decisions over the years here. But I think as a Giants fan, you also got to look at it as, hey, if you want to be a glass half full kind of guy, you got to look at it as, hey, we traded back. We got a pick for next year. We got some more picks for this season. So you got to look at it as that way instead of just looking at it as, oh, we got Kadarius Toney. Who's this guy? And I'm sure many Giants fans haven't really heard of him, but the Giants did trade back. They got Kadarius Toney. Obviously, they felt number 11 wasn't the best. And I always say this, as much as it might sound like as much as it sound like as much as it doesn't sound like a great pick, at the end of the day, that's who they felt was best for the organization. You got to look at it that way. But Kadarius Toney, like I said, he can do it all. He's very versatile. He's very versatile. So, you're getting a little, it's almost like they're out there. We talk about a utility man in baseball. He's almost like a utility man for football. He can play a couple different positions. He's quick. He's speedy. You put him in a position, he'll make it work. So, that's what the Giants are getting there. Number 21 overall, they got Kwity Paye, the Indianapolis Colts defensive end, Michigan edge rusher, whatever you want to call him. Hey, it's a good pick. I had the Colts taking an edge. I had him taking the guy out of Georgia. I did not have him taking Paye. I didn't have Paye falling this far here, but Colts. It's kind of one of these picks that, hey, this is a guy I saw play at Michigan, and he's another guy quick off the line, definitely gets to the quarterback. One of his underrated skills, I feel like, is disrupting the run. I know a lot of people talk about the pressures and all that stuff, but this is a guy that can disrupt the run too, which is really good. And not that the Colts are arguably in a relatively run heavier division. They've got teams. Not that the Texans are anything special with their running game, but you got teams like the Titans with Derrick Henry, and then the Jaguars now with James Robinson and Travis Etienne. So it makes sense. I feel like not only is this going to help the team, but I feel like it's going to, it fits well in the division because they needed a guy that, could stop the run, get to the quarterback when they're in a division full of a lot of good talent at that running back position, along with the Colts themselves having a good running back in Jonathan Taylor. So good pick for the Colts there as well. This next pick is not that I don't like the pick, but it's definitely a pick it's going to be 50-50. They took a risk here. Tennessee Titans drafted Caleb Farley, cornerback out of Virginia Tech. This has been one of the more controversial players, in this entire draft. Where is Caleb Farley going to go? We heard, he's got he's had back injuries, had back surgery, he's got back issues. He's had a lot of back issues. He's had injury history. Teams passed up on him due to his injury history. And the Titans here, they passed up on a receiver, Elijah Moore, to possibly fill into Corey Davis' shoes, who they obviously lost, who's now on the Jets. So, the Titans passed up on taking an asset at receiver, but they did lose Adoree Jackson this offseason to the Giants. So you could see it as, one of those moves. Hey, we lost the guy, let's, bring another guy back. And maybe they felt like, hey, we're not in much need of a receiver, although they did lose Jonnu Smith and Corey Davis, two big pass catchers on that team. They left with A.J. Brown. But, hey, you did lose Adoree Jackson this offseason, so you bring in Caleb Farley. You're like, all right, you lost young talent, but let's bring in some more young talent. And I think Farley's very good. I think he will be good, but his injuries are just injury histories a little bit. And is that gonna go with him in throughout his NFL career? We'll see how that goes. That's been the big question for a lot of the NFL GMs is that injury history of him in college going to stay with him throughout his NFL career? Some players it has. Some players just goes away, and it's like it never happened. We'll see how it plays out with him. Then the next couple picks, obviously the Vikings took Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle, Virginia Tech. Like I said, you're never going to have a time where you don't want to have a good offensive line. And with them having, Dalvin Cook and Kirk Cousins and, Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson, there's a lot of assets around Cousins that he's got to get the ball to. More time in the pocket equals more opportunities for that. And then, creates holes for guys like Dalvin Cook. And, Kirk Cousins not mobile. So when he's under pressure, he's most likely going to take a sack or throw the ball away. So, good move there. Steelers took Najee Harris, a running back out of Alabama. I mean, you had to make this pick. I really believe if the Steelers didn't make the pick, they automatically get a C in the draft, an F. They had to make this pick. Now, if Najee Harris didn't fall to them, they couldn't do anything about it. But with Najee Harris falling to them, they had to make this pick. You can make an argument the Steelers, since they lost Bell, have had arguably one of the worst running games in the NFL. So, and they can't have Big Ben passing the ball 50, 55 times anymore. This was the big pick for the Steelers with Najee Harris. And I still don't believe that the Steelers are going to be that good this year. But I mean, if you could try your best to not have Big Ben throw the ball 50 times a game like he was last season, Najee Harris is the answer to do that. So, number 25, Travis Etienne with the Jaguars running back Clemson. I mentioned this earlier. I think Travis Etienne is a really good running back. I really do. Just the one thing with this pick is, I talked about it yesterday with Trevor Lawrence, naming some of the guys around him there in Jacksonville. I was like, the running back's a strength of theirs, and they still go out and draft a running back. Now, I could see this as, hey, they've already got college talent together. Bang, you have two young running backs. You just like that. You have two young running backs. That's how I see it. Now, you could look at it as, hey, we could have spent this on a receiver instead of a running back, or we could have took defense instead of a running back here. But hey, Travis Etienne, you're going to get a very good running back out of him. No matter what here. So, definitely an interesting pick, but they definitely got a good skilled player there in Travis Etienne. Like I said, maybe James Robinson runs a line. Etienne's more coming out of the backfield to catch passes from Lawrence, which he did a ton in Clemson. We'll see. Number 26 overall was Greg Newsome, the second cornerback out of Northwestern. I said if the Jets stayed at number 23, I think this was definitely an option to take him there. But hey, the Browns, they obviously just picked up Denzel Ward's fifth option, so you got Denzel Ward. Now add Greg Newsome. You already to a loaded defensive line and stuff. Browns got a really good defense. So definitely, I think, to already what was a good defense, they just are adding on, and that's really good. Then number 27 overall, Ravens took Rashad Bateman, wide receiver Minnesota. And as I didn't see this pick coming, I actually had the Packers taking Rashad Bateman as they showed interest in him. This pick makes sense, though. One of the things I've always said about the Jackson and stuff like that, he throws a lot of short passes. He throws a lot of, hey, get at the ball and, throw it. Little check downs here and there. It's not going to get the job done always in the NFL. He really hasn't been surrounded by that great of talent. So, give him the opportunity to get another receiver, get a guy like Rashad Bateman, and, boom. You have an opportunity to really upgrade the offense with this pick. Then they're going to finish it out. Saints got Payne Turner, defensive end. Houston, he'll pair up with Cam Jordan there. They obviously lost one of their defensive ends, edge rushers in the offseason, but they'll get, Payne Turner out of Houston. The Packers last season, where we really saw their secondary get exposed in the playoff game, they draft Eric Stokes out of Georgia, cornerback, so they'll add on to there. Bills drafted an edge rusher, which is, you got to realize, Gregory Rousseau, defensive end Miami. The Bills' biggest need is an edge rusher, and they're getting that in Rousseau. He obviously opted out last season, but in 2019, obviously, with Miami, 15.5 sacks. So, very good player there. Then you had J.C. Owe out of Penn State. His stock obviously has risen a lot. That's what the Ravens took. That was the pick from the Chiefs that they traded in the Orlando Brown trade. And then the Buccaneers took Joe Tyrone, defensive end out of Washington. So to finish it out, there was 3 edge rushers that were picked to finish it out, 4 in the last 5 picks. So edge rushers were definitely a hot commodity in this NFL draft. Now, let's go ahead and take a look here at the Jets and Giants picks, really take a deep dive into it. And like I said, I'm going to kind of repeat what I said before about Zach Wilson. I really like the pick, and you're going to hear me say this a lot. It's going to get annoying. It is. It might get annoying, and I apologize for that. But I'm very excited about this pick. And I want to say this. When the Jets drafted Darnold, Maccagnan was there for his first season. The next year, he drafted all that stuff. He then got fired. Darnold went on and played his second year in his career. Then this most recent year, last year in the NFL draft, they drafted Mekhi Becton. Darnold gets protection. But Darnold, here's my whole thing. Darnold was not Joe Douglas's quarterback. And honestly, I can tell you this. Joe Douglas has already done more to help Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson has even played one game with the New York Jets than Maccagnan did to help Sam Darnold. And that's why I can already tell Zach Wilson's going to be better. Because Joe Douglas has already built around him so much better than they did with the Jets than Mike Maccagnan did with Sam Darnold. So I'm telling you, the New York Jets with Zach Wilson, I believe it is going to work out. I really do. Because this is Joe Douglas's quarterback. And I have trust in Joe Douglas. And I believe he will thrive under Joe Douglas. And I'm excited, all the talent that Zach Wilson's got, I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. Because he's got a lot of talent. And he's got a lot of, he's just got a lot of natural talent. And there's talent out there that you build off of, just practicing. This is a guy that's just got a lot of natural talent. He's just got a lot of attributes that just come to him. It's just a lot of stuff that's just like it's natural to him. He does it. He could do it in his sleep. And that's what Zach Wilson's doing. He's developing good habits. He's very good running. He fits the scheme. People don't realize, when he says fit the scheme, it's not just like, oh, he's run this team. This is a good scheme fit because he can run this. Literally, the BYU playbook that he was under in college is what the Jets are running. So he has already been in literally, I can almost say like he's already been in the Jets system before he even got drafted. Because the playbook that BYU ran is literally what the Jets are going to run. And we saw it yesterday. It's a lot of calling hike. Not everyone calls hike. It's a lot of getting the ball, snapping it, rolling out to his left, having a receiver either go, out across the middle, and then you get that safety to bite down, and then the safety gets so distracted on the quarterback, the guy's deep downfield, or you get it to where it's out, or you get it to where it's you're running and you make a throw across body, or it's just an out route to his left. He's rolling out. He makes the play. Because then there's safety or something bites down, and then you get that across the middle. They showed the highlights yesterday. I'm not lying to you. Go watch the NFL draft again. They showed the highlights yesterday of the play Mike LaFleur runs, which is Kyle Shanahan's type of offense, what Mike LaFleur is bringing to the Jets, and what Zach Wilson ran at BYU. So a guy who has already had so much experience under the system the Jets are going to run before he's even practiced one day with the New York Jets. The situation with Zach Wilson and the Jets right now, it really is really good. It really is. It's so much better than what Darnold was put into. Zach Wilson is already in a better situation. And he hasn't even practiced one day with the New York Jets, and he's already in a better situation. And also, a lot of the players, they got his back. They're behind him. We saw Becton, Berrios. Becton was pumped up about it. He's excited. The organizations, the fan base is gathering around Zach Wilson, and I really believe we got our guy. Then the number 14 overall pick, obviously, was Elijah Vera Tucker. I mentioned it earlier. When we traded up, it had to be him. We got him. And it ties into exactly what I said with Wilson. He's already in a better situation. Becton, Tucker blocking his blind side. It doesn't get much better than that. Two young guys that you very well that could be a pairing for a really long time. And if those guys stay together, that could be a pairing for a really long time. And that makes me super excited that our quarterback, who is mobile and who is really good, really, really good, now gets some more protection up front, and that's what they get in Elijah Vera Tucker, offensive lineman out of USC. And then the Giants, like I mentioned earlier too, with Kadarius Toney, out of Florida. I mean, you want to look at this pick at a glass half full. You traded back. You got more picks for next season. You got another pick this season, this draft. You don't want to look at that. You can look at it that way. You go ahead and say, hey, we also got a versatile player. Now, you could also look at it as, hey, yeah, we did trade back, but we could have, took an offensive lineman's edge or something like that. But the Giants, I still believe here, with the wide receiver, Toney. Now, I mean, I don't know if he's, definitely was the best available. It was definitely an interesting move, but you're getting a guy that can do a lot. He can do a lot of different stuff. He can be versatile. So, talking about versatility, if the Giants, that's what they needed, then they're getting that. And we'll see how that plays out. Definitely one of the more interesting moves there. Now, today's draft, obviously, the Jets helped big time yesterday with Zach Wilson with getting him the offensive lineman. Now, today's draft, I could see the Jets doing a couple different things. I could see them going after Landon Dickerson out of Alabama, give Zach Wilson some more, time in the pocket, give him more protection. I'd see them going Creed Humphrey, who's a center, give him that. Now all of a sudden you got a center, guard, and left tackle all on your, that's just really good. Now your offensive line is looking really good. Or Landon Dickerson. I could also see them possibly going Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback out of Florida State, because you also got to realize the Jets their defense is very good. Their defense is not the main need right now. They got good linebackers, good defense linemen, good safeties, but their corners are a little bit of an issue. So I could see them going Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback out of Florida State here, just because he is, a really good cornerback. He's a solid cornerback. I've done some stuff on him. And also a guy who, Doug, if Saleh's interested in him, I'll tell you what, if they pick a defensive guy, it's going to be Saleh who's going to have a big say in that, because Saleh's a defensive-minded coach. He's our head coach. So that definitely will be big there. And I feel like we really boosted, did well on the, in the offensive side of the ball. I could see us taking a receiver or running back maybe later in the draft. I could very well see that. But definitely we boosted up on the offense side of the ball to start the draft. So, maybe you continue to, then you start to build, and it'd be big to get a corner or something like that. You start to build on the defense. And then the move to round 3, you could definitely see some, possible options here, if you're the New York Jets. Or I don't believe actually the Jets didn't. Okay, so the Jets didn't give up their third round. The Jets gave up their third round picks. Okay, so the Jets gave up their third round picks. So, maybe you see, with the Giants, for example, let's see where the Giants stand with their third round picks. They out of Tennessee. Okay, so they could very well maybe take also another guy there. But, I think the Jets is big. Their second pick of the second round, I think, is big. Because I think you could go so many areas with this. And maybe you trade back and get your third round pick back and you get another second round pick. Maybe that's what you do. But the Jets definitely multiple options. And the Jets and Giants have multiple options in round 2. We'll see how it plays out. So, but hopefully the Jets make the right decision. I do trust the front office here, and hopefully the Jets make another good move. So, comment down below your thoughts on the NFL draft. I would love to hear your thoughts there. And obviously, you could see linebackers like Osu, Asante Samuel Jr., a wide receiver, an offensive lineman. There's so many guys that they could go ahead and look at. Alrighty, so let's get into New York Sports Update and the NBA and stuff like that. So yesterday, the Pelicans won, Nuggets won, Timberwolves won, Rockets won, and Mavericks won. Nets also won yesterday, 130 to 113. We moved to 43-20 on the season. Good win for the Nets. As for today, we got the 76ers Hawks. I'll give 76ers the win. Celtics Spurs, give Celtics the win. Wizards Cavs, give Wizards the win. Grizzlies Magic, give Grizzlies the win. Bucks Bulls, give Bucks the win. Suns Jazz, give Suns the win. And Lakers Kings, give Lakers the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 43-20. Trailblazers come in this game 34-28. The Trailblazers are 3-point favorites. The over/under is 241.5 points for this game. This game goes on today, 8 p.m. Eastern time on NBA TV. I'll give the Nets the win. Alrighty, that's for fantasy hockey, hockey in the NHL yesterday. The Flames won, Panthers won, Maple Leafs won. Penguins won, Bruins won, Devils won, Hurricanes won, Lightning won, and Blues won. Islanders beat the Rangers yesterday 4-0. Rangers moved to 26-19-6 on the season. Tough loss there for the Rangers. We gotta find a way to bounce back and get the win. Alrighty, so Canadiens Jets, I'll give Canadiens the win. Avalanche Sharks, I'll give Avalanche the win. Golden Knights Coyotes, give Golden Knights the win, and Kings Ducks, give Kings the win. That's for today's games. All right, and as for yesterday's games in the MLB, the Diamondbacks won, White Sox won, Rangers won, Cubs won, Brewers won, White Sox won, Mariners won, Cardinals won, and A's won. And the Yankees lost yesterday 4-3. We moved to 11-14 on the season. I mean, obviously a tough loss. The extra inning rule, the dumbest rule in sports, hurts us again. But we'll see how it plays out. All right, so Pirates, Cardinals, I'll give Pirates the win. Marlins, Nationals, I'll give Marlins the win. Mets, Phillies, give Mets the win. Astros, Rays, give Astros the win. Reds, Cubs, give Reds the win. Blue Jays, Braves, give Blue Jays the win. Red Sox, Rangers, give Red Sox the win. Dodgers, Brewers, give Dodgers the win. Indians, White Sox, give Indians the win. Twins, Royals, so give Twins the win. A's, Orioles, give A's the win. Diamondbacks, Rockies, give Diamondbacks the win. Angels, Mariners, give Angels the win. And Padres, Giants, give Padres the win. Yankees also play today. Yankees come in this game 11-14. Tigers come in this game 8-18. The Yankees are, 1.5 point favorites. This game comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time. Schoolbill's on the mound for the Tigers. Garrett Cole's on the mound for the Yankees. The over-under is 7.5 for this game. This game comes on today, 7:05 p.m. Eastern Time on Yes. I'll give the Yankees the win. I mean, the Yankees, Garrett Cole's on the mound. I feel confident about that. All right, as for fantasy baseball today, right now I'm currently losing 153-132. But today I've got going Yerman Mercedes, Matt Olson, Jake Cronenworth, Josh Donaldson, Carlos Correa, Jed Lowry, Alex Bregman, Whit Merrifield, Austin Meadows, Dylan Carlson, Will Margot, Michael Taylor, and Will Smith. And Garrett Cole's on the mound. On the mound. Now, quick update here on injuries. Matt Olson underwent an x-ray on his eye Wednesday that revealed no broken bones. Matt Kawara of the San Francisco Chronicle reports. So we'll see how all that plays out. there. And then as for, I want to make a move here. So I would assume he probably doesn't play there. So I'm going to make a move here. So I'm going to put Whit Merrifield here, and then I'm going to put Victor Robles in there. Okay. So now I'm rocking Victor Robles in the lineup as well. And Whit Merrifield as well. Garrett Cole also. All right, so today, fantasy basketball, I'm currently losing 2,456 to 2,036. Today I've got going Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Anthony Davis, Jonas Valanciunas, Trae Young, Kemba Walker, Buddy Hield, and Montrezl Harrell. Anthony Davis is day-to-day. Davis Cap is probable for Friday's game against the Kings. Harrison Feigen of Silver Screen and Roll reports. Trae Young is out. Young ankle is questionable for Friday's game against the 76ers. Chris Kirshner of The Athletic reports. So that's that. And then Kemba Walker oblique is out Friday against the Spurs. Tim Bontemps of ESPN.com reports. So he's still out there. We'll see how all that plays out. As for fantasy hockey, I'm currently losing 102 to 93. So today I've got going on says Kopitar, Jeff Petrie, Shea Theodore, Shea Weber, Jacob Kitrin, and that's what I got going there. It's going to be a close matchup there to see how plays out the rest of the way here, but definitely going to be interesting to see how the rest of that plays out with fantasy hockey. And it's also going to be interesting to see how the NFL draft plays out as well, the rest of the NFL draft. So hopefully it's another good, exciting round. I hope there's another good action. I always like a lot of good action. It always makes it more interesting and a lot more fun to watch. So that should be good. And with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. As you all know, I take breaks on the weekends, so I will see you all back here on Monday. Everybody, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you all back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.